The time is 6 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting of the New Britain Board of Education to order. I'd like for us to all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Rivera, please.
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Edwards, roll call.
President Diana Reyes.
Here.
Vice President Ms. Barbara Marino.
Here.
Secretary Dr. Eddie Pozowski.
Here.
Mr. Anthony Kane.
Oh, he's excused.
Ms. Annie Parker.
Here.
Ms. Hannah Petrusko.
Here.
Ms. Joan Pena.
Here.
Mr. Richard Reyes.
Here.
Mr. Jose Rivera.
Here,
Ms. Tina Santini.
she is on her way.
I'd like to call for a moment of meditation. Dr. Brzezowski.
And I would like us to reflect on the life of Laura Curran, please, and Jarrell Harkins.
Thank you. Public participation. Do we have anyone signed up? Would anyone like to address the board? Would anyone like to address the board? And once more, would anyone like to address the board? Thank you. First, we have our superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you in advance. We'll have a slightly longer than usual meeting tonight because we weren't able to hold our finance, facilities, and transportation meeting because of, I don't know, that frozen white stuff that keeps falling out of the sky. So I'd like to, first of all, on behalf of the whole staff, thank the board members for your continued commitment to serve the kids of New Britain as a member of this Board of Education. March is Board Member Appreciation Month. You found a small token of our thanks at your seats when you arrived tonight. So it's important for the public to know that each year board members dedicate hundreds of hours of volunteer time for no compensation. The only compensation is to give back to the kids of this community. So staff, please join me in a round of applause to thank our board, please. Sincere thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Going to take you through, as I usually do, the advanced copy of the district dispatch that you have in front of you. Really nice cover story. Thankful to our partners at CBIA who joined us last month. I would say not just joined us, but asked to join us. They asked to come to New Britain High School to feature our academy structure and really show off our academies to state legislators. So I believe we had 4 or 5 state legislators in attendance. As you can see from the cover page, we had Mayor Sanchez with us, which was wonderful. We had partners such as Gina Coleman, Executive Vice President from the hospital, join us. It was a really great day to kind of show off exactly what's going so well about these offerings at the high school. So thank you to everybody who made that possible. On our side, Sandra Sanford and of course Myra Rodriguez had a big part in organizing that. You'll see a thank you to you again in the inside. On page 1, part of the Building the Beacon article, a special shout out to Mr. Berry and the staff of Chamberlain School. They've been going above and beyond just to make their parents feel welcome at their school, including passing out, I believe it was hot chocolate on a very cold day as families arrived. So special thank you for that. Really nice crop of superintendent challenge coin recognitions this month, I should say, excuse me. Special note there on the right-hand side, the Gaffney team. These are teachers, staff members who went above and beyond on their own time to create videos to help families understand how to deliver high-impact literacy strategies at home. And it started off as an idea that was just geared at their families, but when Ms. Langer saw just how well they were prepared and how seriously they took it, this is gonna be a district-wide release of their work. We're gonna share all across the district on our various channels. So wonderful stuff there. On page 4, you see the cover article that I mentioned earlier. And we've just had a bumper crop of athletic successes. So you've got really nice features on 2 of our champions, Zachary and Yendry, with indoor track and field, some really nice stories there. As you continue to turn, really, usually our social feed part of this booklet is kind of more like laid back, but there's a lot to celebrate here as well, such as Lady Canes winning the wrestling championship, staff members being recognized by the Community Foundation for Greater New Britain. Some really, really nice stories there. So as always, I encourage the board and all the members of the community to visit the dispatch, whether online or in hard copy. I want to say thank you to, I believe it's now members, I think, 10 separate PTOs who have come out to meet with me as I've kind of made my rounds around the city. For me, a personal and special thanks to the principals who've combined some of those, so it wasn't 10 individual nights for the superintendent out, but we've been meeting and greeting with lots of people, making our pitch that they become active and advocates in the process. And we've gotten some nice feedback from that as well. And lastly, we'll talk about that, again, that white stuff that keeps falling from the sky. As the board and the community saw, I made a call last week that just didn't work out. And as I explained in that video, those are my least favorite. Now in my 11th year of being a superintendent of schools in Connecticut, right, as you heard me say, the ones where we wake up and there's a pile of snow on the ground, those are easy. Or the ones where 3 days ahead they're saying we're gonna get 22 inches of snow, those are easy too. Wednesday was a hard one, and tomorrow's gonna be a hard one too. So tomorrow's a perfect example of having to rely on the forecast. Tomorrow at 4:30, actually I'm looking at an email here, at 4:40 I'll be on a conference call with our consulting meteorologist. And he's gonna tell me his prediction of when the snow will change to freezing rain, and then might change to rain. And it's a perfect example of how these calls work, just to kind of to continue to inform the public and our families. So the latest forecast I saw was that the snow would start somewhere around 10 a.m. Somewhere around 11, it would change to freezing rain, and then it might change to straight rain at 2. So our earliest bus rolls at 5 a.m. So a delay only gets us to 7. And our latest bus finishes at 5. So a 2-hour early dismissal only gets us to 3. So if the roads are unsafe anywhere in between there, it's cause to cancel school. So I don't want to cancel school. We've already had 5 snow days. I don't want the 6th. But if, right, and this is the difficulty, if at 4:30 a.m. the prediction is that there'll be dangerous travel in between that window I just described, my choice will be to cancel. So as I said in the video that I released last week, it didn't work out, but given the same information at 4:30 a.m., I would have made the same exact decision as I made last week, because it was supposed to only snow a total of 1.5 inches spread over 4 to 5 hours. So this is what it's like when Ms. Gonzalez, Ms. Langer, and I communicate very early in the morning as I'm making my decision and getting input from lots of different people.
I'll
So,
just point something out too, though, that Unified Sports, we have competitions in Glastonbury tomorrow, so all of us are gonna be heading over there. Just if you can just keep that in mind, I'm not saying you have to.
okay,
If you could, please.
of course, of course. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee reports, I don't think any committees met this past month, so we'll skip that. Board reports.
Gonna be going to read advance on Thursday.
So excited.
Dr.
So excited.
Me
Yes.
too, and I'm
So
excited, I'm gonna read at Ralk too, so.
Can I just,
Sure.
able to just contribute? So Dr. Gasper, was speaking before the, state committee this month. And, I just wanted to say how honored I was as a New Britain High School graduate, as a graduate of our school district, as a parent, as a spec ed parent. this is the hour, this is the minute, this is the moment that we really need to be stepping up for our kids, especially at the state level. I have, God bless, through just many, many years of having relationships with our delegation. And not only that, but also at the state level and understanding very full well how important it is to actually give face. I was very proud to do my Princess Diana wave right behind Dr. Gasper when he was giving his speech. And it was just amazing to be able to hear and connect with other school districts. There were other members of CABE actually that were there. So we were able to meet and really just be in support of our students in our respective districts. And Bridgeport, is having troubles as well as our other districts, and so it was great to hear from them, but also, most importantly, to be there to support our superintendent in front of the state and also be able to just really back them up as a parent, as a board member, yes, but also as a parent. And I encourage other parents to also go if they can. It's one thing to write letters and make phone calls, but it's completely different when you actually go there, speak in front of them, and be heard, and it was amazing. So I enjoyed supporting Dr. Gasper when he was doing his speech. He said, look, and we have a board member, and there I was. So for anybody that could, it was great going there to support him. As a board member being there to support him, but as a parent being there to support our district. So I had a good time. Thank you. And if I embarrassed you, I'm sorry.
No, it takes more than that.
Two little things to share. I'm always very, very excited about New Britain High and all the great things that are going on at New Britain High. And I just think it's a great school with so many opportunities. And my son, I'm not saying this to brag about my son, but my son, he's a senior and he had a lot of time off, but he loves the school so much that he didn't want to leave early, like every day. So he decided to take the introduction to engineering class. And he absolutely loves it. He had never done anything like that. And then the other day, and again, this is bragging about the engineering thing, he made this really cool thing on a 3D printer, and I just thought it was very, very cool. And his name is shooting out, and like just the stuff that is going on at the high school. And I'm glad it was featured. Yeah, so it says Patrisco, and then it's just kind of cool. So they are utilizing the resources at the high school, and kids are taking advantage of them. And I noticed that it was in here too with the focus on careers. And yeah, so there's just a lot of really wonderful things happening at New Britain High. And then of course, I have to promote Frozen, which is coming up at the end of March, so there should be this. And that's all.
They're gonna be doing a Frozen thing at the library, actually,
Yes,
like a little
on the
mini Frozen
11th.
at the library.
Yep.
So just make sure that you can tell your parents.
Yep.
Well, my kids are spec ed at New Britain High School, so they're not gonna be in Frozen or anything like that, but they do have unified sports. They're gonna be in competition tomorrow in Glastonbury, so
Oh,
keep us in prayer that we make it back and
Yeah.
forth.
Well, since we're doing that shout out and bragging, my great.
Yeah, girl, come on.
This year is in Miss Vaselic's class, and they, marketing class, and they went to Central, and they had to on the spot come up with a commercial and promote it. It can be something old or something that they've invented. And my granddaughter, who was picked along with other people in her group, and they won first place. So now they have to go
Yeah.
to regional, and she go, I didn't know I was gonna have to do that.
On the spot, impromptu.
I have the opposite of bragging about my son. It has to do with a special memory I have of Jarrell, which has been rolling over in my mind the last month. And I knew Jarrell because we worked on the committee to choose the first poet laureate of the city, which was Mike Lateef Peterson.
Yeah.
And on the council, we had conversations, but my first memory of him, my first knowledge of him was as a rec basketball coach of my son. And when my son was very little and he had just discovered goalkeeping for soccer, we told him to stay always back in the net and guard his territory in goalkeeping for soccer. But for basketball, he had no basketball instincts. He did the same thing. He stayed in the back and 9 other kids went to try to score. And my point is, Jarrell was the most gentle, patient, supportive human. He would look at me as if to say, like, are we gonna try to turn this kid into a star? And you know, like he just was so patient. And so, I don't know, blessings to Jarrell's memory, I guess. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is I believe we have Jeanette Luna here, who is our presenter. At the state of the student conference, we were just so impressed with the knowledge that they had and everything that they shared. And so we're gonna hear about the special education financing. Just like a plain and fact, like for example, page 118 of our board packet, it says that our budget will be overextended by 5.5 to 6.5 million. You get information like that as a board and just don't know what to do with it. So we are just very grateful to have somebody in the room to kind of guide us through these dynamics.
Anyone else?
And I just want to tell you, just in speaking about Jarrell, and honest to God, the last time he and I spoke on the phone, he goes, Tina, I really miss you. And I'm like, boy, that's really funny. I said, but you're only calling me because you need me to fill a seat at the Martin Luther King event. And we always joked around that way. Honest to God, we've known each other forever. Chloe's 27 for, at least maybe about 15 years. But anyway, so the weird part is that I said to him, I said, I love you too. I miss you too. And he goes, Tina, I just miss because you come over and you always make it a point to make me laugh. I said, dude, I go over there and make you laugh whenever you want. I would just send him random factoids every day just to really both get under his skin, but also to get a rise out, just to make him laugh. But I always had such great memories with him. And I know that he is truly missed as a human, not just as my friend. And I am so blessed because he had such a great relationship with all of my children. And that's very rare, right? That an individual would connect with all of your children in their own unique way. And he too celebrated the uniqueness that was my children. And he always found a way to infuse their not understanding with understanding the bigger point of what was being celebrated or what was, so that they weren't lost in the crowd. And my kids get overwhelmed in big crowds anyway. He just made it just so beautiful, and his spirit was just so beautiful. And I'm really, really blessed that I knew him in my life. And one day we'll sing again. So thank you for sharing.
I just have really quick, and also
Go ahead.
Jarrell was also my children's camp counselor as well. But he was honored at the Black History Month event at City Hall, and one of our staff, James Jones, was honored, and so was one of our students, Kaylin Morgan. So that was awesome. And I also did want to shout out the cheerleading team on their recent competition wins.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Has gone undefeated this one.
We don't have, anybody else have anything? Okay, great. We don't have students representatives today. So our next is our presentation of School and State Finance Project, the special education funding.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
We're great.
My colleague Erica Haynes is also here.
So we typically use the podium.
Okay.
Students getting comfy, not everybody has to use it.
We're not super formal, but there's a microphone there so the public can hear you.
Perfect.
We'll have, when you start, we'll have you introduce yourself to the board and then you can take it away.
Sounds great.
Just waiting for everything.
Thank you for being here tonight.
All right, let's do this. Hi, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Erica Haynes, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the School and State Finance Project.
My name is Jeanette Luna. I'm a Senior Data and Policy Analyst with the School and State Finance Project.
So a little about us before we get started. We're a statewide organization that was started in 2015. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We focus on collaboratively working with stakeholders throughout the education system, and that includes students, parents, educators, and elected officials and policymakers to identify great solutions that support students, schools, and communities.
So today, we're going to give you all a state level landscape view of who our kids with disabilities are in Connecticut. And that'll help us to better understand how New Britain students with disabilities fit within the broader landscape. We're going to then jump into how the students are served. So we'll start with the who, move to the how, and then we'll get into the funding piece. And we'll end with what you all can do as a board and community members. So who are the students we're serving in the state of Connecticut? This graph shows you overall enrollment in the state. As many of you are aware, it's been declining for the last several years. And so to understand what's happening with our kids with disabilities, we just wanted to put the framework here that overall enrollment is declining. It's now, as of the most latest numbers released on EdSite, just below 500,000 students in the state. You can go to the next slide, please. So despite the overall declining enrollment, we're seeing a rise in the number of students with disabilities. So that means our percentage of kids with disabilities has gone up substantially. And we're seeing that across pretty much every disability type. Besides students who have a speech language impairment, every other disability type has increased over the last 15 years. And we've seen the most increases in kids with autism, kids who are classified as having, it's a state definition, but other health impairments, I know it's very broad, and learning disabilities. Just to kind of put this in perspective, the number of students with autism has nearly tripled in the last 15 years. And even though they're not as substantial percent increases, we've seen huge increases across other disability categories as well. We've also seen ginormous increases in the number of students with disabilities across every racial category. So we've particularly seen percent increases in Black students, in students who identify as 2 or more races, and in Asian students across the state. This chart you'll see just shows the percentage of students with disability in each racial category 15 years ago compared to now. So you can see there's a jump between.
You use ginormous. I heard that.
Ginormous. It's really, really big. Go to the next slide. We've also seen that this is a national trend, but in Connecticut as well, students with disabilities are disproportionately male. So if you're a male student, you're about twice as likely to be identified as having a disability as if you're a female student. And like I said, this is pretty much the trend across the nation, but we have, in terms of percentages, about 2/3 of our students with disabilities are male and about 1/3 are female. All of this data is compiled from the state, but it's important to note that these are just students with IEPs. We're missing a huge chunk of students, which are students with 504s. There is a difference in definition that a lot of people tend to mix up, so we put it on the slide for you so you have it available. But the key difference between students with an IEP and students with a 504 is that students with an IEP require specialized instruction. So students with 504s don't typically have changes to their instruction. However, they do have similar services that require extra funding, that require extra resources and bandwidth from teachers. So that might include students who need separate setting during testing accommodations, extra time. They typically have in-classroom supports, but they're often receiving the same accommodations that students with IEPs are. And it's a huge chunk of our students. So if you look at the data there, this data is actually not from the state because there is no publicly available data from the state of Connecticut on students with 504s. This is from a separate national database, and we only have data up to 2022. But you'll see that the number in the last decade has more than doubled. And the percentage has more than doubled. So we had about 3% of the entire population in 2012 who had 504s and over 6% in 2022. And we can assume it's even higher today in 2026.
Okay, I'm doing my German Shepherds.
Yeah, I noticed that, Barbara. Yeah.
It's documented who's got a 504 within a school district versus an IEP, correct? So
Yes.
this data is collectible.
Yes. It is collected, it's just not available for the public to see. So the State Department has it in their internal systems, but we don't have access to see it.
They don't forward face it. And I want to point out that it matters.
What,
Right.
It's a government secret? I mean, I'm confused.
Indeed, it is not a government secret
Okay.
because we can get this data at the national level, but they don't forward face it. And I think over time, when you look at that growth, right, as we see across all sorts of learning needs and unique challenges, 504s in Connecticut are one of the higher growing across the country. And I think that it is one of the unique challenges that you as board members face because it's a hidden cost, right? You're not seeing that, and there are similar requirements to students who have IEPs regarding meeting those needs of 504 students. And over time, that growth is also kind of your budget is tethered to that growth as well, and yet it's not an identified line, right? You don't see that. You all and your superintendent have to make those choices related to it, and I think it's important to acknowledge that that's happening. It's one of the growth opportunities that the State Department has regarding data transparency.
My head is already going down the road of modifying ECS, and I'm identifying and what's my number of what I've got if I'm not including all.
Right.
Sorry.
Yep.
I do that. He yells at me all the time.
We'll definitely address that, don't worry. So that's kind of a picture of who our students with disabilities are across the state. So now we'll talk about how they're served once they are in our special education system. So there are large and persistent gaps between our students with disabilities and their general education peers. So what you're seeing on the screen, it might be hard to see for folks in the room, but there's a turquoise line at the top that represents the number or the percentage of students with a disability who are scoring a level 1 or the lowest quartile of scores on the math SBAC. The dark blue line on the bottom is showing comparatively the percentage of general education students who are scoring at the lowest. So you'll see a lot more students with disabilities are getting that lowest category in the SBAC. And you would think with the huge increased investment in special education over the last several years that gap would start to narrow, but it doesn't. Even though we've been investing more in special education compared to general education, the academic gaps are still there and they're remaining relatively stagnant over time. Go to the next slide, please. This is a similar graph, however, instead of showing the lowest scoring students, it's showing the students who are passing or scoring a level 3 or 4 on the math SBAC assessment. And so the dark blue line at the top is our general education students, substantially more passing than our students with disabilities on the bottom. And similarly, that gap has not really changed over time. So that was kind of an academic picture. This graph is showing you our student-teacher ratios. So many people are probably aware that we have a teacher shortage, but especially a teacher shortage in special education teachers. So back in 2007, the student-teacher ratio for special education was about 12 students per teacher, and it has jumped in more recent years to about 14 special education students per special education teacher. And then on the flip side, the general education student-teacher ratio has gone down. So even though there's a teacher shortage, it's substantially worse in special education. Okay, so I wanted to show some chronically absent data. Again, apologies that it's hard to see that light turquoise line that represents our kids with disabilities if you're in the room. But essentially, students with disabilities are about twice as likely to be chronically absent than our general education students, which is obviously very concerning after looking at that academic data. Similarly, our kids with disabilities are nearly twice as likely to be suspended as our general education students across the state. And again, these are statewide numbers, not just specific to New Britain. And then lastly, I wanted to finish with some post-secondary outcome data. So this table shows college enrollment comparing students with disabilities to general education students, and then college persistence data. So the big takeaway here is that our kids with disabilities their enrollment rates have remained pretty stagnant over time. So from about 2018 to 2024, 44% of students with disabilities are enrolling in college, and that number hasn't really changed over the last few years, compared to about 70% for general education students. And then college persistence is a term that the state uses. It just means that if they're in college, they then go on to their second year. And the number is, again, lower for students with disabilities, but it is relatively higher than some of the other metrics we've looked at. So about 3/4 of the students with disabilities in college go on to the second year. Now I'll kick it to Erica to talk about how we fund.
This is the fun part.
Yeah, you get the fun stuff, I get the doom and gloom.
Well, I don't know how optimistic I can be here, but I think that a lot of times we struggle with this doesn't make sense, and I can't make it make sense, but I can tell you why it doesn't make sense. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to break this out because I'm going to tell you that the state tells us that Connecticut's local public school districts primarily receive special education funding through the ECS grant. Now we have a separate presentation of School Finance 101 that walks you through every element of that. And when you walk through every element of that, you would look at me and go, that was never mentioned. And I will tell you 100% correctly, and we'll talk about that. And then additionally, the state comes back and funds through reimbursements of excess cost. And excess cost is 4.5 times the average per pupil spend. When you spend that on one student, you can actually start submitting for reimbursement. Those reimbursements are not at 100%, and I'll explain a little bit about that. So, in good news, I'm going to kick this off with some good news, and I think it's really important. This is a significant change. Prior to 2025, the way Connecticut had no unique funding stream to support students with disabilities, it kept us in a small minority of states. Last I knew, we were in the good company of Arkansas, West Virginia, and Rhode Island. And so last year, that changed. And it changed in what they call the SEED grant, the Special Education and Expansion Development Grant. We'll call it the SEED grant so I don't stumble for the rest of the night. And that SEED grant actually provides additional dollars that actually are intended solely for the support of special education. So we'll talk about this. First, I want to start with the education cost sharing formula because the state says it's in there. And they say this because in 1995, they said, we do not need a separate line item for special education. We're just going to roll it in to our education cost sharing line item. At the time, it was roughly $911. Now they assume that about 23% of all education cost sharing dollars are attributed to supporting special education expenditures. So that was their primary path. I will tell you, if we look at the formula and we break out all of the ways we talk about students with needs and the calculation of how dollars come to New Britain Public Schools, those dollars are not part of that. And so it's really attributing your spend to special education, but not the funding. And it would be like if we went to the dollar store, purchased something for $1, and right as they were putting that dollar in the cash register, you took it back and you tried to buy another thing for $1. Although my son would now tell me that they're not dollars anymore, it's about $2. So shame on me there. But we can talk about how inflation has affected our funding too, right? So the ECS formula has never included a weight for students with disabilities. It does include a weight for multilingual learners. It does include a weight for students in economic disadvantage, a measure of free and reduced price lunch, and for concentrated poverty when the number of students on free or reduced price lunch exceeds 60%. But students with disabilities have never been in that category. Go ahead. One of the ways the state has consistently done this, as I said, is through excess cost. And it's that 4.5 times threshold that gets you to starting to get reimbursement on your dollars. It's never been 100%. It always ran about 72% or so. And then a couple of years ago, we set tiers. Are tier slides in this or no?
They're not.
Okay, we said, we didn't put the slide in there because the state has never met these tiers. We all got our hopes up that they were going to reimburse at 91, at 88 or 89, and at like 85, depending on community wealth. They set that law in place and have never met that. Typically, right around Christmas time, your superintendent gets a letter saying, hey, here's what we're expecting reimbursement to be. And it is a disappointing amount, somewhere around 65 to 70%. Some districts, again, depending on district wealth, it varies. It's always been an underfunded opportunity. So it's underfunded in order to meet the tiers, and it's wholly underfunded if we wanted to get to 100%. So in meeting the tiers, we'd need to add about 35 million. If we wanted to get everybody to 100%, only after that 4.5 times, we're actually not talking about anything crazy, it would cost about 68 million. So I told you the good news is last year we put this seed grant in. And the seed grant is a new unique stream that is dedicated for special education support. And when they did that, they actually tied it to ECS Foundation and said, we're gonna think of this as a 50% weight on the foundation amount. And we all say, that sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it, in theory, is amazing. At a 50% weight, though, the state funding share would be about 190 million. The state only allocated 130 million. 30 million. Thank you. So glad. So glad you're here. And it's only Monday. So when you look at this,
Approximately 1/6 then.
right?
They met approximately 1/6 of their obligation.
Correct. And so they're not meeting their obligation on the excess cost side of it. They're not meeting their obligation on the direct seed grant. And all of this relying on the back of education cost sharing, which is fully funded this year for the first time since its initial inception in 1988. So it's 38 years to get that part of our funding to full funding. So when you're feeling these tensions around finance, these are in a frame of the state meeting their obligation minimally or in a phase-in period over time, while districts are left trying to figure out how to actually fill that gap.
And I would add that full funding, in quotes, is based on 2013
I was
calculations.
just gonna say that. Oh, you scare me. Yes.
You're scaring him too.
I probably did, yeah.
So looking across what we're looking at, the state is currently providing roughly 8% of the cost to fund special education. That is sitting, the remainder is sitting with you all and local taxpayers to fill in that gap. So even when we look at, okay, if we were to take that 23% attributable through education cost sharing, they still would only be funding roughly 27% of special education costs. And you know, the excess cost and then the seed grant all fall so far short that when you're struggling with the budget, and I think there are a couple of important things to note, when you're struggling with the budget, within all of this, you do not have the ability to say, sorry, this year's not your year, we don't have it in the budget. you don't have that flexibility, and it is different than other budgets in that way, both through 504s and IEPs. And so you all, and generally what we hear are community members not understanding why there are fluctuations or why it's not predictable. And you know, when you graduate a class of 12th graders, you're getting a class of kindergartners. Needs are not the same. And so there's such a range in this space. And then the people unpredictability is a piece of it. The funding unpredictability is significant. It hampers your planning, and it hampers you throughout the year as you have to react to different scenarios. Ultimately, the question though is, what can you do? And this is exciting, and this is good, and actually very timely. So thank you, Superintendent. When we look at how you engage, we do School Finance 101 conversations and presentations. We do them at the board level. We do them at the individual level, in person. Today I did one over the phone, and we do Zoom. So encourage people. If you don't know all the ins and outs, let us know. I love coffee, so if you're ever down for coffee, I am happy to sit down with people. Also, pizza is a favorite food group of mine. So truly, we want this information to be accessible to folks. We want people to understand. A lot of times, what we hear is, we know something's not right, but we don't know what it is. And this is that opportunity. Advocacy is so important. I cannot emphasize this enough. For you all as elected officials, I know as a board you decide your position, and you may speak from that. As individuals, and I go back to hearing as I listened to comments earlier, right? You're board members, but you're also parents. You're also community members. Advocacy is essential to people understanding how you're experiencing it and that you care. And I'm just going to place a challenge here. I've been doing a ton of work in the quiet corner. And we have a bill coming up on Wednesday in a public hearing. And we've got a ton of testimony from Thompson, Woodstock, Dayville, and North Grosvenor-Dale. And if you can find that on a map, you are doing well. I challenge you. It's important, and it's important to normalize folks advocating both for their community and for perspective, because it truly, truly matters at the state level. And so we make it quick and easy for folks, and we are happy to get that link out to you. But we can talk to folks about it. We can help fact check if you want, and we do have an action center on our website that allows you to look at what's happening, learn about bills, and submit testimony there. Most often I think it's hard to figure out where to start, right? And so if we can do that for you, and then you can change it to who you are, that's a really beautiful thing. It matters.
So if I may, Erica, just to interject for people watching at home, we have our own budget advocacy webpage here. It's csdnb.org/budget advocacy, where they can find sample letters to both local elected officials and state elected officials, and all the email contacts along with our budget documents.
That's amazing.
Well, that's not why I brought it up.
I see the challenge, and I accept the challenge. You can reach out directly, and even when you submit testimony, follow up, because sometimes there are hundreds of testimonies submitted. Reach out to your state representative, say, just wanted to make you aware this is an issue that you have an opportunity and I weighed in on. So again, if you need help, let us know. We have an app and you didn't have it in but we have an amazing app, and if you go on our website, you can download our app, and this app is amazing. It lets you look at you can look at district finance, demographics, and student performance. You can compare districts. You can look down into the school level. And I think that looking at data is super important, not just because I'm standing next to Jeanette, but also because what you think is happening sometimes the data shows you differently. And so I think that's really important. And so stay informed, get on our mailing list, get on your own mailing list here because I'm seeing it. And make sure, I think it's also a challenge is to normalize this for folks, to talk about funding, not just one time a year because people run to catch up, but to really get people comfortable with talking about it and asking you all questions about it in the community. So that it becomes a normal conversation, because the more understanding we all have, the more support for change, and change is still needed in order to strengthen school districts like New Britain.
If I may, you guys are amazing, because when I first got on and trying to navigate and figure out this, your info and your assistance was just been great, so I do thank you, and I thank you for this as well. As disappointing and depressing as it can be, it's still very informative and very helpful. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Barbara. I really appreciate that. And you have our emails. You certainly can, if I will say, you can dive down into our website. You will spend a lot of time there, and that is a good thing. But reach out with questions. Don't hold back. And I also, now I have to own up to it with Jeanette here, but I also encourage you to ask the hard questions. I enjoy playing a game called Stump the Data Team for community members, and bringing back some of the questions that you might think, like, this might be a stupid question. It probably is never, it's never a stupid question, but it's probably one that stumps them a little too. And I love that. So please do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
very much. Any questions?
Do you all have any questions?
Any questions, anyone? No, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Asia, can you send the presentation to the board as soon as possible?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
We'll move on to new business. Item A is approve the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on February 2nd, 2026. Any questions, any revisions? Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
One abstention, I wasn't here. Sorry.
Next is item B, review the vacancy list and staffing update.
That's informational.
Are there any questions?
I do,
No, go ahead.
I do have one, which has to do with I think it was on page 18 in the one that we got. The para for Pulaski who resigned after 3 months, and the Slade middle school teacher after 2 months. I was wondering if those departures are answered in the report above. I think what I'm asking for is more discussion about the quick turnover of staff at Pulaski and Slade.
We can have Dr. Sanders present or prepare something for the next personnel committee, if that's acceptable.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I just would like to make a suggestion. Yeah, in reading your weekly notice, I find it, I'm very excited about the fact you get to go for lunch with the students, and you meet with the administrators, and What I'm missing though is there should be some meeting with the teachers, whether it be a group of teacher, a small group of teacher, or one of those Wednesday meetings, somehow or another. And that should also include the parents too. So
Absolutely.
if there's a way we can add to your schedule.
So we already do, we meet with their union representation regularly. So that used to be monthly, but those contracts have
That
changed.
doesn't quite get it, that's the union.
She wants you to do
representation.
more.
Not that I'm speaking against the union, but there are people who don't get this, to share with the union maybe. And who would come to a meeting, ask questions, make suggestions. And then maybe get some feedback as to why what's happening is happening. You know, one of the things, when I first started teaching, the way the schedule was set up, we had time to help new people. And the way things are now, you don't have time to help anyone. So any new person coming into the school is pretty much sink or swim, unless you have a friend or know someone. So if there's a way that we can make it more of a, you know, where they feel like they're contributing, there's someone they can go to and talk to. And I'm not saying that has to be you, but I'm just saying if you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Can
you.
I just echo that? I'm just saying that I just need to make sure that, you know, I have to echo that. Because my kids are struggling at New Britain High School in their special education. And their struggle is actually because their staff is really, don't get me wrong, everyone is very vocal with me when they catch me getting coffee in the basement at St. Mary's and in Spanish. But they're not talking with anybody else and they don't have anybody else to talk with. And even when I say, well, listen, you guys have union leadership, that doesn't sound the same, it doesn't land the same. They need to have somebody they can speak with. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, the only other thing that I have for the vacancy list, like we did with the budget last year, if we can get information regarding salary and benefits as we're moving along through the budget process. Because that report last year was very helpful.
Item C, review the exit survey data. Any questions? Thank you. Item D, report of personnel transactions and extracurricular activities. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item E, facilities and IT updates.
In the interest of time, I've presented this to you in written format. We can certainly answer any questions, but because we do have a long agenda tonight, we thought we would do it that way.
Invoices from First Student, can we got invoices?
We did receive invoices from First Student,
Okay.
mostly correct.
Wait a minute, what?
Get it, Casper!
So thank you to Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. Valerio, or Mr. Valerio, they are working on that. First Student has received my request for a reduction
Modification?
or an elimination of the 6% increase for next year, and that'll be a conversation we have with the help of Shipman.
And the app is looking to be relaunched in early March. I'm sure that's going to be huge for the families.
Yes, we are tracking all changes that we're making within the vehicles and any changes to routes, and we're only like 92% right now, so we're getting more closer to 95, they will be launched, but parents can actually get access to it now, and hopefully they're good buses are activated, and they just always to report it this time.
And not that I hate them, I really like to bring up social media, but, so there was a commentary about packed buses and whatever, which I'm assuming is being addressed.
We are within state guidelines, and we're at a point where we have to reduce costs wherever possible, and that should be expected. I wish we didn't have to do that, but it's a financial reality.
Again, we don't respond to any of those things, we just make sure that that's,
It's actually something that I've mentioned in some of my presentations to parents of the buses might get fuller. Some of the state guidelines for the littlest children say 3 per seat. We're not currently at 3 per seat most of the time, but it's definitely one of the things that I'll be coming to you as a possible budget change if the budget news is not good.
Do I, okay, item F, reviewing the enrollment report.
As you can see, we continue to trend mostly flat. Negative 168 on the top and plus 116 on the bottom. At around 9,600 kids right now.
And this is information.
Correct.
Item G, approve revised policy 6145.1, student eligibility to participate in extracurricular activities.
and this did come up, and we did have discussion, and thank you to Dr. Gasper for coming up with some language, that we did, folks within the committee did have some comments, concerns about the old outdated policy, so thank you for language.
Thank you.
For us to take a look at. I personally think it's captured everything that we discussed at that time, but this is now for the full board. We're kind of skipping, bringing it back through committee and bringing it to the full board too.
I think this is the third time we're discussing it, and I just wanted to say thank you to the staff, thank you to the board. Like the first time we saw it, I had a little meltdown over anxiety. And, we discovered that it's not about that. But the last paragraph, I think, is really supportive.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, H, approve revised policy 6146.11, grading and weighted grading for honors classes.
So for this, I'd ask Mr. Richardson to come to the podium briefly. So this is something that came up really kind of on a very short timeline. Typically, we would of course brought this before the policy committee, but it is time sensitive as we have students who are getting ready to apply for scholarships and getting ready for graduation. Even though the snow is still on the ground, we are getting ready for graduation. So Mr. Richardson will give us kind of a quick overview as to why we're asking for board action on this evening.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Last year, as Dr. Gasper mentioned, we approved a grading policy revision for our students. And this year, we ran a semester. At the end of the semester, we ran the grades for GPA and found that the policy had some errors in it. Based on our seniors and their rankings, we needed to make a decision whether we were going to allow their previous grades and the way we calculated mixed in with the new way that we're doing it would change some of the rankings. And so we thought that was unfair and thought that we should wait or use the rankings, the new ranking system for freshmen this year, and then roll it over with every other grade in the preceding years after that. So we're asking to be able to make that change, and I could be joined by our lead counselor, Stacy, and our wonderful representative from MIS, Margaret, if you have any questions about that.
Questions? No questions.
Again, apologies that it didn't come through the policy committee, but we wanted to take action in a timely way on this one.
Okay, since we're rolling right along, I got another request. One of us.
Oh, whoa.
So, In last year's document, we needed to change A+, because the weights for A and A+ are no different, and we never made that change in the document itself, so we want to be able to make that change as well.
On where?
So in the policy itself, if you look at page 3,
It's the
Uh-huh.
policy.
Yeah, 45 in your packet.
sorry, you can see that an A and an A+ both have the same
Yeah.
weights for it.
And again, this was discussed at the previous
Right.
revision.
We just didn't make the
It's
change.
just a
in the
document, so
paperwork.
it's a clerical error, but this brings it in line with the discussions from last time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item I, accept donation from CHDI Connect to strengthen integration between school and community-based behavioral health systems.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item J, accept donation from the Roundtable Group to support the Academy of Business and Finance at New Britain High School in the amount of $575.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Item K, approve purchase order between CSDNB and Singer Kittredge for replacement of 6 region fridges at New Britain High School in the amount of $36,806.94.
So
Motion to-
moved.
Second.
All those in
If I
favor?
may just clarify,
Sure.
this is coming from a state bid, Ms. Gonzalez, Ms. Murphy, so there is no need for a
The food
competitive
service account.
bid process on this. Thank
We
you.
don't have to, we don't have to go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item L, approved purchase order and contract between CSDNB and Imperial Dade LL Company for extension of custodial supplies in the amount of $360,500.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item M, approved purchase order between CSDNB and Dangris Ford for emergency vehicle repair for facilities in the amount of $13,381.03.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item N, approved purchase order between CSDNB and Power School for renewal of E-Collect add-on district-wide in the amount of $24,465.37.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item O, approved purchase order and bid award between CSDNB and Octane Forklifts district-wide in the amount of $14,499.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item P, approved contract between CSDNB and the Efficacious Educator LLC to provide cognitive coaching for Slade Middle School in the amount of $23,000.
Motion.
Second.
Question.
In that order.
So, what's up?
So, through my SIG grant, I had a revision because a big part of my SIG grant was for the math instructional coach at Slade Middle School. However, through waiting for the SIG grant to be approved and the hiring process, we didn't hire the instructional coach until January. So therefore, the money that was slated in my SIG grant for a full year of salary for instructional coach, I had quite a substantial amount for a revision. So based on that, when we're looking at myself and my administrative team, Ms. Henderson and Ms. Ortiz, we manage a lot of things in the building, right? But our biggest focus really should be our instructional leadership. And that piece is something that I think each of us really could use our kind of some time to. Cognitive coaching is like, coaching your brain essentially. Time to sit and talk and have someone look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, how are we giving feedback, how are we supporting our teachers. I had an opportunity to work with Sarah back in 2018 when I filled in as intern principal at the high school. And then we worked with her when I went back as an AP for many years too. And getting that outside person, to be able to sit down with someone with an outside perspective when you're not in the minutia of the day-to-day all the time, because Rosa, myself, and Malika collaborate all the time, but we're immersed in the building every single day. So being able to show someone, you know, this is our growth plan, these are our goals, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we're doing right now, but how can we do it better? But
Moving out of the
particularly,
forest and coming back. to
exactly,
fiction. Yeah.
and particularly for this is for our instructional, really focusing on our instructional leadership.
Okay, cool. That's
it.
I read the
No, I get it.
jargon in here.
I mean, you see,
and
I mean,
needed that.
$23,000 is also, you know. it's
Right,
a large
the dollar
amount,
amount
but
didn't
yeah.
bother me. In just
That's,
reading
like,
some
what
of
is
the
it?
stuff, that's what I needed to
Yeah,
hear.
no
Thank you.
problem. Thank you for
Appreciate
asking. Yeah,
Thank you.
what?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is Q, accept the financial report for January 31st, 2026.
Ms. Alfano, do you want to give us any highlights of the financial report, please?
Does she want to? No.
We don't typically do it at this meeting, but we didn't have a chance to have an FFT.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So this will, I'll just try to be really brief. So this is a highlight of our January 2026 financial report. And on our second page of the presentation, I have the expenditure summary by category for the entire month. And I did want to make a few notes here that if we look at the salary line items, they no longer reflect negative balances. All of those transfers from the local into the grants have been completed. So now all the expenditures and the budgets are in the correct account codes since all the approvals came through for our grants. And I do want to make note, this is really late in the year. We've never really received our grants so late in the year. So this is why here we are now in February where we finally completed these transfers. The next steps are now to realign the benefit. So the benefit line items, we're working on those right now. So we'll see a realignment of those as well. And then after that, what we're going to do is what Ms. Marino already mentioned prior to our vacancies. That's in a slide ahead, and I'll speak to that as well in realigning those dollars. So I'm now in the
Is that page
object series
116?
300.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That wasn't page 116 then?
Okay. Okay, so
Go ahead.
object series 300. What we're seeing here is the line items for facilities, other professional technical services, and I've already been speaking to this in our monthly reports. This line is trending over budget, and we will require a budget transfer at year end. But I also want to make note of the other line items, line 53590 and 53591, which are outside subservices line items. And that's what we had mentioned earlier, that's where our subservices that are covering for those vacancies, that's where the expenditures are hitting. So now that all of our grants and all of those lines have all been realigned, we will be doing transfers from the salary lines from our vacancies into these accounts. Okay, so a lot of this, these expenditures will be covered once we do those transfers.
So you do those, that's under that reclassification versus fund transfers that we have to approve.
No, you will see them.
Okay.
You will see them, absolutely. You do have to approve those, and they will be in the financial report. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yes. So then we can go to the object series 500. Back one more. This one right here. Okay, so object series 500, this represents our special education tuition expenditures. And as we've been reporting every month,
Right now, we have approximately $16 million in encumbrances. And again, those represent purchase orders. They are not yet actual expenditures. We are trending $5.5 to $6.5 million over budget at this time. Again, I do want to note that we are still waiting for a $3.6 million, I would like to say reimbursement from the city, which is that special revenue fund, and excess cost should be posted shortly as well. Okay, so we'll see that offset these expenditures, okay, shortly. And Object Series 600. I've been reporting on this line for our last several reports as well. This is trending over budget. We are still waiting for the city to post that capital project reimbursement. Once that happens, this should offset most of this. But we are monitoring this line item. I do think we are going to require a budget transfer at the end of the year for this line. And we don't have any budget transfers pending board approval at this time for this month. And I did want to talk about magnet school tuition just very quickly, just because that was part of the governor's proposal. And for a minute there, he did propose removing that cap, that 58% cap, which would have had an impact on the district. So I did just want to just briefly mention that his proposal currently now it changed a little bit. So he's proposing a 3% increase. Do you want to go forward, Asia? So it's a 3% increase in magnet per pupil rates. So this would raise the total cost per magnet student. We're not sure what the impact is going to be on the district if this does go into effect, because we don't know if the state's going to fully fund it or not. Okay, so we just don't know yet. Then there was a proposal to remove that 58% cap. That wasn't adopted in the legislature. So again, we're just going to be aware of that and make note of that, and we'll have to monitor that as we progress forward. There is a CPI-linked adjustment that may apply beginning fiscal year 28. Okay, so again, not sure of the impact. We just don't know if the state's going to be budgeting for that, or that's going to go on the district. So the next slide is the multi-year tuition summary. So I was excited about this in that if we notice for the current year, we did have a decrease in magnet school enrollment. I know it's small, but it's still a decrease. So we did decrease 6 students in that enrollment. So we are currently at 777 students. I would consider that a win for us. If you notice, year over year, we've had quite a big increase, from 47 students, 23, 24, we had 74 students that increased the magnet school enrollment. So I did think that that was a win for us for this year. Okay, so that also maintained our tuition expenditure kind of level for the current year. But again, I also wanted to show what the impact would be if that 58% cap were to be lifted. That is a $2.2 million increase in tuition for magnet schools. So we do need to monitor that closely. Whether it's a CPI increase or a lift of the cap, there is going to be an impact on what that cost is for us. Okay. So then what's ahead? So that February 26th meeting has actually been rescheduled to tomorrow, March 3rd. So tomorrow we will be meeting with the Board of Finance and Taxation at the city. And we should be posting that first excess cost grant. And that completes and hopefully a very fast summary of the January report.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no items on consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.